force me now. Awakening is clear. I could show you how. I could show you how to fight them. I could show you how to defeat them now.
Alright, what is going on today, guys? I figured today a good topic would be, what's going on today, guys? Today I want to discuss, lifts that you should do for your Cherokee. What's a good size to run, good size lift, a good size tire to run. We're talking about brands. We're going to just give a full video on what type of suspension should you run in your Cherokee. Now, people use Jeeps for different things. Some people use it as a daily driver. Some people use it as a straight off-road rig. Some people want to just have a very, very mild lift. Some people just want to go balls out and they want to have the biggest lift possible. It really all depends on what you're doing with the Jeep. There's other people that the stock suspension's worn out and they figured, okay, well, I want the stock suspension maybe like an inch higher or something. So there's a lot of different options you can do for the suspension on the Cherokees. So we'll get into it, and we'll talk about some of the things that you can do to lift them, talk about some price points, and kind of give you a better idea of, what you're looking into. If you're looking into getting a lift, how much it's going to cost, and, help you budget a little bit better. So we'll get into it right now. So we'll start off with budget lifts. One of the lifts that you can run on your Jeep would be pucks in the front. You put the pucks on your front leaf spring, and obviously if you space your leaf spring, not your leaf spring, your coil spring, it's going to push it down, therefore give you lift. You can also run in the rear drop brackets that are for the leaf spring. You can probably get about 2 inches of lift. Same with the pucks. You can either get like a 1 inch or 2 inch puck lift. So if you are looking at like a cheap lift, that's the route to go. You know, you're not going to be able to fit a big tire. The max tire size you're probably going to be able to do is somewhere right around a 31 inch tire. You could maybe run a 32 inch tire. I don't know if I'd recommend that. You're probably better off with a 31 inch tire. You're probably going to have to cut your fenders even with 31 inch tire anyway. So, you know, if you're looking just for the cheapest you can get, and then you want to run a cheap set of tires, 31 inch tire with a 2 inch puck in the front and then a 2 inch drop back in the rear, that's going to be the cheapest route. Now, another lift kit you could do is Old Man Emu. Old Man Emu makes a lift kit that's like 2 inches. It's kind of expensive. It's like $1,000, but it is a good quality lift. So if you're looking for a good daily, something that looks a little bit more aggressive, you know, 2 inch to 3 inch lift is going to be your next bet. Now let's get into the 3 inch. These are really where Cherokees, in my opinion, where the lifts start. I don't consider the 2 inch really a lift. Once you get into the 3 inch lifts, there's a lot more brands, a lot more options you can do. A 3 inch lift, you're safe to fit, I'd say, a 31 inch tire to maybe a 33 inch tire. I had a 3 inch lift on my white Cherokee, and I had 32 inch tires. It rubbed, but it wasn't that bad. I had my fenders cut, and it's definitely doable. So if you want to run a 32 inch tire, you could do that on a 3 inch lift. Now, some of the brands that I recommend would be Rubicon Express. Rubicon Express makes a nice 3 inch lift. Zone makes a pretty good 3 inch lift. Those are the two brands that I was looking to get when I want to do the 4.5, but they also made a 3 inch lift kit too. I would stay away from Rough Country. They're okay for the price you pay. They're all right, but it's the price you pay. They're a cheaper lift kit. That's just kind of how it is, guys. So if you want to get a nicer quality 3 inch lift, I'd probably get a Zone because they're like kind of middle priced. They're decent quality. They're a little bit more money, but they're not that expensive. Rubicon Express is going to be pretty expensive for a 3 inch lift. Now, also with a 3 inch lift, you don't have to modify anything else. You don't have to do a slip yoke eliminator. You don't have to do extended drive shafts. There's no other modding you have to do on a 3 inch lift besides just lifting it. So if you're looking to really cut corners, not cut corners, but, you know, have savings, you want to try to save as much money as possible, the 3 inch is really about as high as you can go, I'd say, without really starting having to modify stuff. It's really the easiest to do. And you can fit a 33 inch tire if you want to cut a lot. So give you good low center of gravity. That'd be a very good setup. Now, when I had my white Jeep, I had a 3 inch lift, like I said. I wanted to do a 4.5 inch lift. And in my opinion, a 4.5 inch lift is one of the best lifts for a Cherokee. Doesn't make your center of gravity too high. It still keeps it somewhat of a decent daily, you know what I mean? It's not crazy high. It's just a pretty decent setup. On a 4.5 inch lift, you could run a 35 inch tire with some, you got the cut quite a bit, but you can do it. I have seen people run 35 inch tires on a 4.5 inch lift. You're probably better off with a 33 inch tire. That's really going to be the best setup. If you have a 4.5 inch lift with 33 inch tires and you put lockers on it, you can go anywhere with a Jeep. You don't have to really worry about rolling over because you have a low center of gravity. It's going to be a nice setup. I mean, if you want to do rock crawl, go through mud holes, it will really be able to do anything. Go down tight trails, you know, it's going to be a very good setup. Now there are lifts, trying to think what brands. Rubicon Express, once again, Rubicon Express makes a really nice 4.5-inch lift. That's actually what I was going to get when I was looking at getting a lift for my white Jeep. That was going to be $1,300 or $1,400 for the Rubicon Express, but it came with everything. It came with the lower control arms, upper control arms, shocks. It came with the whole entire setup. Now, if you get a long arm setup, you're probably talking like $2,000 or more. You don't need a long arm setup on a 4.5-inch lift. You can run a short arm. You're pretty good. Your drive line, not your drive line, but your axle, the control arm angles might be a little You could always run drop brackets for your control arms. You could do that, but on a 4.5-inch lift, you can really get away with running a short arm lift kit. Once again, I'd recommend Zone. Rubicon Express is a really good brand. Clayton Off-Road makes a good lift kit. I forget who else makes a lift kit that I was looking at. There's another brand. I mean, I know a lot of brands, but was it Terraflex? No, Terraflex doesn't make anything for Cherokees. But there was another brand I was looking at. There's a lot for the 4.5-inch lift. You start getting to a lot of brands. The main three that I always suggest would be Zone, Rubicon Express, or Clayton Off-Road. Now, once you get into the 5-inch lift, it's about the same. You kind of need to do the same amount of mods. On a 4.5-inch, 5.5-inch lift, you're going to have to run extended drive shafts. There are people on forums that are, they take drive shafts out of like the ZJ, I believe, or the WJ. They're slightly longer, and that works. So you could do that. There's some kind of things you can do. You don't have to run a slip yoke eliminator. Some people don't, and they get bad driveline vibrations. Other people don't run it, and they get no vibrations at all. From what I heard, the manuals are a little bit better with lifting and not getting driveline vibrations. So if you get a 4.5-inch lift, expect to do other things along with it. Expect to do drive shafts. I was looking into the Tom Woods drive shaft. They make a pretty good drive shaft. The Jeep that I have here, which we'll talk about in a second, I actually have the Adams drive shafts, and they've been great too. So either Adams or Tom Woods, that'd be fine. You could either get a local drivetrain shop. Maybe they could make you a drive shaft. There are shops that like make drive shafts, so they extend them and shorten them. So you probably could do that route too, if you really wanted. What else? With a 4.5-inch lift, you have to run extended brake lines. So there's a little bit more into it. But depending on what kit you buy, that will all come included. Other kits, you're going to have to piece it out separately. That's also going to be for a 5.5-inch lift. Now let's get into the 6.5-inch lift, which is what I currently have on my Jeep now. I would not go any higher than a 6.5-inch lift. In my opinion, that is really the highest lift you want to go on a Cherokee. They start kind of getting tippy when you start getting past 6.5. Even sometimes with this, it feels like it wants to roll. It's not going to, most likely. It just feels like it. You know what I mean? So it just, on my 3-inch lifted Cherokee, I never felt like I was ever going to roll. I always felt like planted to the ground. As this, there's times where I'm doing stuff and I'm just like, whoa, like I feel like I'm going to roll over. Because I could feel the weight like shifting because I'm higher up. So in my opinion, a 4.5-inch to 6.5 is really the golden spot of a lift kit for the Cherokee. I would not go any higher than that. And you could maybe do a 3-inch if you want to go a little bit lower, but definitely do not go over 6.5-inch lift. At that point, you definitely have to run extended drive shafts, not even a question. And you're definitely going to have to do something with your transfer case. Whether you run a drop bracket for the transfer case or you run a slip yoke eliminator. You're definitely going to have to do either one of those two. With the 6.5-inch lift, you can easily run a 33-inch tire, no problem. You can run a 35-inch tire pretty decently with maybe a slight little bit of rubbing. That's what I have. I have a 6.5-inch lift with 35-inch tires. It's been a really good setup. They're a nice big tire. They're not crazy big. They're enough to do whatever I need to go through. Especially if you have lockers. I have a locker in the front. I'm pretty much able to go through anything I've seen mud holes that are bad, and I was like, let me kind of just tiptoe through it, and I was able to get through it. So, you know, for the most part, you can do anything with a 33 to 35 inch tire and a 4.5 to 6.5 inch lift. Put a set of lockers on there, and you're good to go. For a 6.5 inch lift, another brand you could do, pretty much the same brands. I'd either run a Rubicon Express, or what I have on here is a Clayton suspension. It's a really expensive setup. It's nice. Fortunately, it came on the Jeep when I purchased it, but Clayton makes a really good lift kit. I'm really happy with it. The one joint on my control arm is a little loose. That's fine. I think I looked at my line. They're like $30 for a new joint, so not a big deal. But it was loose when I bought it. Now I am running a long arm setup. I would suggest doing long arms on a 6.5 inch lift. You can run short arms, but I really wouldn't recommend it. You're really better off with a 6.5. You're really better off with a long arm setup on a 6.5 inch lift. You're not going to get the proper angles on your control arms. It's going to ride like crap. If you're going to do a long arm setup, like if you want to run a long arm, you could do it with a 4.5 inch or 6.5. But if you don't want to run a long arm, do not do 6.5. Do a 4.5 inch lift. That is really the most you can go without doing a long arm setup. And I mean that's pretty much it here, guys. I could get into taller lifts and 8 inch lifts. Don't even bother getting an 8 inch lift. Oh yeah, I can fit 40s on my 8 inch lifts. Who cares? You don't need 40 inch tires on a Cherokee. Okay, you don't need 40 inch tires. So, in my opinion, I would not do anything past a 6.5 inch lift. Sometimes, like I said, I feel like I'm like tipping when I'm in this, and it's, you know, it's not really that high up. 6.5, yeah, I guess it's kind of a lot, but it's really not that bad. A 4.5 is really the way to go, at least in my opinion. That is like the best setup. A 4.5 inch lift, 33 inch tires, with a set of lockers. You can do anything. You're good to go. So that's pretty much what I talk about lifts. I'll show you guys. Here's an idea of what a 6.5 inch looks like. You can see I got some pretty good clearance. You know, there's our long arm setup down there. Once again, I had the Clayton off-road setup. I absolutely love it. Clayton makes a great product. If you are going to do a 4.5 inch lift, do not run add a leaf. Do a full leaf pack. I don't think they even have add a leaf on a 6.5. I believe you can only do full leaves. But on a 4.5 inch, don't do an add a leaf. Pony up the cash. Save the extra $100, $200. Just buy the full leaf packs. Trust me, you're gonna regret not getting the full leaf pack. You know, a 6.5 inch lift. A 4.5 and 6.5 are very similar. You're just a little bit higher up with the 6.5, and you have, you know, your center of gravity is a little bit more off keel, which is why I prefer the 4.5 inch personally. The prices are around the same. Usually, you can find yourself a 4.5 inch lift or a 6.5 inch lift, and it'll be like a $300 difference. So, like the setup that I have on here, this lift kit is probably, it's about $2,700, but it's also a long arm setup. So, you know, if I were to run a short arm, say I had a 4.5 inch lift with a short arm, I'd be at like $1,400. And yeah, I'm higher up, but it wouldn't be that much higher. You know, it's not like a crazy difference, you know? So, that's pretty much it, guys. That's my little talk here about lift kits, and what size tires you should run. We could talk about gearing. Maybe I'll do that in my next video. We'll talk about gearing per tire size, and what my experience is so far with that. So, all right, I'll talk to you guys later. Any questions, comments, anything like that, just let me know down below. I'll try to answer whatever I can. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.